Well, the sound of engines erupt here for round 4 of the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine, and we are racing at Hungaroring. And I must say, a twist in the tail due to the weather that impacted qualifying first thing this morning. This is the circuit, 4.381 kilometres, lie in wait for all the drivers, 14 corners, with many fans flocking into the 70,000 capacity circuit, which will soon host yet another Hungarian Grand Prix. As you can see, all littering in the grandstand and getting set ready for a fabulous race. We can't wait to get things underway. Here is our starting grid. Tucker Tappinen taking his first pole position of the season. He starts in first alongside fellow RSGP compatriot Zachary David. Brando Bador starting in third. Further back then we do have Alessandro Giusti. Enzo Peugeot starts fifth. Evan Gilter in sixth, with Enzo Dellini starting in seventh alongside Rafael Camara, one of his more disappointing performances so far this season. James Wharton starting ninth, with Ugo Gachuku in 10th. Ruiki Liu in 11th alongside Ivan Dominguez. Noah Stromstead in 13th. Pedro Clero starts 14th. Mathieu De Parlo in 15th place, with Nico Lacorte starting 16th. Kanato Lay in 17th, with Valerio Rinicella in 18th place. Nanavud Biram Bhakti starting 19th, with Alex Sauer in 20th spot, with Roman Andriolo in 21st. Edgar Pierre in 22nd. Nikhil Bora in 23rd. Jesse Carrasquedo in 24th, with Michael Belov in 25th. Marta Garcia, the recipient of the Resilience Trophy back at our last round at Zandvoort. She's now back again, ahead of Lena Bühler in 27th. Theophile Nile starting 28th. Giovanni Maschio 29th. Yaroslav Vasalaho in 30th, with Yuja Gao in 31st, and Isaac Barashi in his first appearance alongside Yuja Gao there at the back of the grid. And looking ahead to this one, the weather seems to have dissipated. No longer the deluge of dampness that we had first thing this morning. It is now a dry track, and the drivers only have to worry about getting from A to B, A being the starting grid, B being into turn 1. Now, the big question is, how is Rafael Camara going to fare? Starting 8th on the grid, our current championship leader, with 4 wins to his name in the last 6 races. 4 out of 6, and is yet to appear outside of the top 2, as now the lights, they light up red. All 5 lights are lit. And it's pedal to the metal. And it is go, 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 go. Great start from Tucker Tappinen and Zachary David there in second place. The 2 RSGPs, bound together. There you can see in the background, Brando Bador now looking to go and take an outside line, coming through towards turn 1. The Van Amersfoort looking to go for grandeur, much like it has done in the past. Enzo Dellini also getting it wrong as well. A car running off wide. Now, if I'm not mistaken, is that is the Van Amersfoort. Unfortunately for Brando Bador, running out wide, extending through turn 1. There's a cluster of cars though making their way through turns 3. Dellini being met with Alessandro Giusti. Enzo Peugeot just behind Dellini. I must say, despite the moment coming through turn 1, didn't have a bad start at all. Evan Gilter further back then, down in 7th, but it is still Tucker Tappinen. He's tapping on here at the start of this race, with Zachary David there in second place, with Brando Bador there in third, with Enzo Dellini in 4th place. Alessandro Giusti now forms up in 5th. A great start indeed for Brando Bador, despite going off track, going through turn 1, ran it very wide on the run down through towards turn 2. Oh, goodness me. That is the 22 of Pedro Clero, I believe, has just gone off wide. He's toppling down the order. And unfortunately getting it slightly wrong. A few cars going out wide as well as they make their way through the latter sector, coming through turns 8, 9, 10, and through towards turn 11. Turn 11, certainly the hot spot for that. More of them running wide in the distance as they now hustle through towards turn 12 and then around sector 3. They'll then beckon their way through the very slow progressive turn 13 alike. But a great start as far as RSGP are concerned. As I said in qualifying, looking back, we did get a chance to speak to Thibaut earlier on this morning. Obviously, fully looking to the future, despite having such grand results with the likes of Hadrian David in 2022. Took race 2 victory that season. A little bit of movement further up, Enzo Dellini once again defending. Got to factor in Dellini in all this. RSGP, 1st, 2nd and 4th in this timing tower as what looks to be, I think that was Lacorte, who was tried going down the inside in a very aggressive motion, trying to unseat, I think, Pedro Clero on the run down through towards turn 2. They're going to run wheel to wheel again. A lock-up on the left-hand side there. And I must say, doing very well did Pedro Clearo to avoid that, and indeed the 22 carries on through and holds on to his position ahead of Lacorte, or at least I thought he did. He might have actually lost it. No, he did keep it. Fabulous effort there from Pedro Clearo as Nico Lacorte looked to go on the attack coming out of turn 1. As they now head through the middle sector, it's still Tuka Tappinen out front and in charge right now. The Formula Regional Middle Eastern champion from this season, the reigning champion in that series. Had his first win in our last round back at Zandvoort. Now, he could be on course to doing it again. There's still quite a ways to go. Only the second weekend so far this season where he scored points in both races during a race weekend. Did it the first time back at Hungaroring. Didn't manage to get a result in race 1 at Spa. But certainly looks on course if he can hold position here. They call this track Monaco without walls, but I must say a few drivers daring the odd move here and there as Evan Chilter comes through the final corner alike. French F4 champion from last season. He's got his teammate in front of him, Alessandro Giusti, who won that title back in 2022. Rafael Camara, who we're just seeing in shot, getting up close and personal with Enzo Peugeot on the run through towards turn 1. The Prema that sits on top of the driver standings with a very convincing points gap. Looking to go on a charge, and I think he might have executed that as well, heading on the run down through towards the next left-hander. He certainly has done. Rafael Camara getting the necessaries over and done with. He's up to 7th place, and now the next mission is to close up on Evan Chilter, who in his own right was vastly impressive in race 2 at Hockenheim, taking victory, first victory during the course of this campaign and his FRECA career alike. 25 minutes and 35 to go. Here's a replay from the start, so keep your eyes peeled here on Brando Bador and Enzo Dellini, because it got very close between the two. But won't get a chance to see the rest of that, but still nonetheless the action continues. There's Brando Bador right there, who has been sensational in free practice, was fastest overall out of the collective test sessions, and then went ahead and got close in qualifying as well. It was very, very tight, especially towards the very end. The weather was changeable. A few of the drivers having to manage the situation as best they can. We've seen this consistently. We got a chance to speak to Tuka Tappinen during the Paddock Live, and he went into detail with regards how to manage those sorts of situations when you do have deluge of wet weather, you know, sprinkling its way around the circuit. And through the course of the weekend, we've seen it drying in different places as well. But obviously, given the fact that we've got a situation where we do have a dry track, then we don't necessarily have to worry. But there's the Prema of James Morton looking to attack Enzo Peugeot, just as Rafael Camara did not too long ago either. There we can now see him going and taking a wide line through towards turn 2. Might fancy a switchback heading in towards turn 3 if he can find the gap, but not quite. Enzo Peugeot thwarting his every move. The Santalot Racing team, who had a glorious weekend back at Spa, doing something big right now. Ugo Gachukwu also gaining as well. A sea of Premas basically attacking the Santalot at this stage, with Camara already breaking ahead. But James Walter would love to follow suit. As we've seen already, he's had some bad luck through the course of this season. Crashed out back at Spa, but came back in rude form back at Zandvoort. And now this time, chasing the desired results, this time at Hungaroring. It's going to be tight though, given the fact that, like we said, this circuit is very constricted in places, but there are opportunities, especially down the long straight, and with the use of the push-to-pass system, they can exercise their ability to make moves when necessary. As they head through now turn 13, there's James Wharton on screen for Prema. Ugo Gachukwu in the McLaren livery further back, obviously representing the McLaren junior team. Has raced against many of these through the course of the campaign, would have come up and rubbed shoulders against the likes of Tuka Tappinen in Italian F4 and Euro 4. Of course, Ugo Gachukwu would go on to claim the Euro 4 title. Heading in towards turn 1 yet again, still Alessandro Giusti showing his pace as he takes the fastest lap, but he's under pressure now. Or should I say his teammate, Evan Gilter, under pressure, because here comes Rafael Camara, who, after overtaking Enzo Peugeot earlier on, has managed to catch up with the ART and is looking to pressurise and puncture, heading through towards turn 3, up towards turn 4 now this time. And trying to avoid delaying the inevitable. I mean, if it remains like this will be the first time Rafael Camara has finished outside the top 2 in all races so far this season, as they still pursue this 6th place. Still a long way to go, though, in the race. Through towards turn 6 and 7 they go. Need to be wary on where they position the car this time and hitting that braking zone. The brilliant Brazilian Rafael Camara, whose points gap 136 to his name. The gap extensive between he and Tuka Tapinen in second. Because Tapinen is on 63 points. Now many of the cars make their way around the very, very fast turn 11 and then in towards turn 12. Still up at the front, it's Tuka Tapinen, just managing the pace, managing the tyres, exactly as he said he was going to do during our Paddock Live interview earlier on this afternoon. First mission always at Hungaroring, much like you would see at Monaco in the past, get to the front. And that's what both our race GP cars certainly did. So they now head down now towards turn 1. Another lap completed. Remember, as the timer ticks to 0, we've got +1 lap after that. The drivers giving their very best. There's a lot of movement happening further back as well, which is looking in shot. Can't quite see, it looks like there's a G4 car trying to spring a trap. I wasn't sure if that was Kanato Lay who was looking to gain a place. Fastest lap for Tuka Tapinen this time at 1:42.207. Just looking again, Rafael Camara's delta in between he and Evan Gilter is coming down. Camara was faster than him over the last lap by over 1/10 of a second, and now Evan Gilter is going to work, very conscious of that fact. He's gone and set a purple first sector. So Gilter trying to break away from the Brazilian. Every point counts in this championship. Camara knows that better than anyone, as would Gilter in his quest for a French F4 title. And given the fact that he is in proximity to potentially go strong in this series this year, you'll need to make sure that he's at his very best. Gilter, incidentally, is leading the rookie standings coming into this round at Hungaroring. Zachary David controlling his pace well. There is Enzo Dellini, our race, still in a very good position here. I mean, could you imagine if he unseats Brando Badour, then he could very well find himself adding his car into the equation, and it'll be a triple dream for our race GP. And I know for a fact that Thibaut will be absolutely delighted should they pull that off. As we now witness the cars coming out, that's James Wharton there and Ugo Ugachukwu just breaking out of turn 7. Ruiki Liu and Ivan Dominguez. Noah Stromstead, as now we see once again James Wharton attacking Enzo Peugeot, and he'll get the run, I think, coming out of turn 1. He has his nose in front, the car most definitely in front, but certainly Peugeot is not afraid of sending it up the inside. He's going to try and delay the braking, coming through turn 2, round towards turn 3. Enzo Peugeot, daring defensive effort there on his behalf, managing to thwart James Wharton at every move. Glorious effort on part of the Santalok car. As we've said time and time again, Santalok, very well known for their exploits in GT3, have now since crossed over to single-seaters along with that programme and have got stronger and stronger at every turn. Of course, had Emerson Fittipaldi Jr. racing for them last season, and since then recruiting new faces and trying to grow the team at every turn, and it's definitely working. I mean, having the likes of Enzo Peugeot, who's been stellar through his F4 career, and then alongside of him we've got Matteo Di Paolo and Théophile Nile making up a French double act along with Enzo Peugeot. They head in towards the final corner once again. It's James Wharton who now sets the fastest lap of the race. The pace in the hands of the Prema, and he'll need every bit of it in order to thwart Enzo Peugeot as they now all rush down through towards turn 1. Surely James Wharton has to see this as a chance. to break ahead of the Santalok. You can just see Rafael Camara as well, just in behind Alessandro Giusti, closing up to Evan Giltert. And this group of this top 5 now starting to break away from the rest of the pack. So Delaney just taking a slightly wider line. I would argue that Giusti was a little bit more primed coming through turn 2 and out of turn 3. There's Rafael Camara. Said in the driving seat for the championship, looking to follow suit from what his former teammate Andrea Kimi Antonelli did last season, winning the title, and now in pursuit of a Mercedes drive in Formula One. Camara would love to see himself potentially driving a Ferrari in the future. He is part of the Ferrari Driver Academy, but so is Tuka Tappinen. Both their drivers now sat 1st and 7th in this timing tower, as they now head through the middle sector and through very shortly in towards sector 3. Tappinen in control has now advanced his charge out by a whole second. Over the last lap, he was still just under a tenth quicker than Zachary David in 2nd place, and then Brando Bador, who still holds on to 3rd. Fairly equal with times between he and Enzo Delaney. Alessandro Giusti also trying to break away from Evan Giltert and has actually managed to find a whole tenth over his previous lap. We'll have to see what this last lap has now managed to do for him here. The gap's relatively the same. Giltert now out by 1.1 in comparison to his teammate, which won't help him to keep Rafael Camara at bay. Zugo Gachuku heads around turn 1. Heading in towards turn 2 once again. See James Wharton, a little error there, I would argue, from Enzo Peugeot. Oh, goodness me, a lockup. Now that is the 55 belonging to Valerio Rinicella. Somehow, some way, has kept himself ahead of Matteo De Parlo, coming out of turn 2 in towards turn 3 and heading through turn 4. He can count himself very fortunate, in fact, because obviously when you hang it around at that point, with De Parlo having a better line, could have very easily swung in the favour of Matteo De Parlo, maybe even Pedro Clero further back as they rush through turn 6 and 7. Battle for 14th position still very much in tow. Rinicella recovering mightily well under the tutelage of former Formula One driver Giancarlo Fisichella, who still is very much active in terms of racing in recent times in Italian GT. And has taken Rinicella under his wing. We also caught up last time as well with Antonio Liozzi back at Spa, who is also very involved in the development of drivers and ensuring that their skills are up to the mark. But even he commented and said that drivers nowadays are so much more advanced in terms of what they bring to the table for racing in the modern era, certainly in comparison with the way racing was undertaken in the past. Is now James Wharton up the inside of Enzo Peugeot, and surely Peugeot is going to get the switchback coming out of turn 1, and he certainly will do, and hold position. But James Wharton feeling that he had no choice but to force something, and again a switchback heading through towards turn 2. This time he's trying to squeeze and find every gap possible, but Enzo Peugeot, defensive masterclass once again from the young Frenchman, and has kept James Wharton at bay. It was a fantastic effort by Wharton. I do not certainly doubt his plans at all. He had to do something, had to pull something off in order to get past Enzo Peugeot, but Peugeot met him at every turn. A fabulous battle between those two. The Prema having to renege on that occasion, but a great display that I'm sure the Santalok team are enjoying. Though they would have preferred seeing Peugeot a little higher up in this fight. He's driven a great race. From a defensive standpoint, it's been a Herculean performance, but heading down in towards the next right at turn 12, there's Camara. He too, sister Prema to James Wharton's, trying to close up onto the back of Evan Giltert. That's been an ongoing fight. It's been rumbling on for quite some time now. Through turn 14 they'll go, and another lap will begin. Kamara very close to getting a lovely exit too, so if he gets to the toe, and he does break to the inside, this time of Evan Giltert, so surely this has definitely been Kamara's best chance of the race so far. A lock-up from Brando Bador further up the order, but Rafael Kamara, the brilliant Brazilian, finally managing to find his way through and breaks past Evan Giltert for that 6th place. It came eventually, it took a little bit of time, but he waited patiently and took his opportunity. And heading out of turn 3, he'll now rush up through towards turn 4 in that 6th position. Onwards as well for Alessandro Giusti, who is still hunting down after Enzo Dellini. That gap is also shrinking. But and we've also got a battle for 2nd place. Obviously, we saw Brando Bador locking up, heading through towards turn 1, which might have spooked Zachary David slightly. So it could yet drop into the favour of Brando Bador. We allude back to Van Amersfoort, much like our race GP, maybe not in terms of numbers, but just in terms of race wins in general. Outside of our race, there's only one other team that has managed to successfully win here at this circuit in the last 2 years, and that, of course, goes to Kaz Havercourt, who won it for Van Amersfoort in 2022. You never know, could be the turn of Brando Bador, who's been very fast all weekend. All started in free practice, where he issued in a 1:39.602, which was faster than Enzo Peugeot's 1:39.946 from collective test 2. And since then, came close in qualifying to breaking into the top end, but nonetheless, brought his best in race trim. Now sits on the podium ahead of Enzo Dellini and Alessandro Giusti, as they all rush down now towards turn 1. Zachary David a little quicker than Tucker Tapperton in the last lap. Tapperton just seemingly managing his race right now, but the gap between David and Tapperton is now within 0.8 of a second and closing, even though Tucker Tapperton did manage to pull off a personal best in the last sector on that previous lap. Doesn't want to allow Zachary David to get too close. Despite them being teammates, they all want to win. Tucker Tapperton would love to make it win number 2 to half, at least, Rafael Kamara's season record so far. He's got 4 to his name. The Ferrari Driver Academy driver out in front, doing a great job so far. Brando Bador trying to find anything he can to, in an aim to take P2 out from under Zachary David. There's Evan Giltert, just licking his wounds after Rafael Kamara managed to get past him. Obviously, he's got Enzo Peugeot in behind, but I think Peugeot is busy with other matters right now. We did just see a car go extremely wide earlier on. Not quite sure who that was, but I just caught it in my peripheral vision. As the cars now break from turn 14 down the long straight. There's Zachary David. Brando Bador now 4/10 away. If he can get into the slipstream, maybe he can get a little closer. He might go for a late move. Obviously knows that turn 1 provides the best of opportunities sometimes for overtaking, or at least teeing up a potential run in towards turn 2 and turn 3, as Rafael Kamara sets the fastest lap of the race. Now down the hill they will descend once more. Still Tapperton out in front. 12 laps accrued so far. Now wheel to wheel again this time, and that is James Wharton again trying to thwart Enzo Peugeot, but Peugeot still at every turn, and the same turns as well, holding up the Aussie, stopping him from breaking away near and clear from the Santalock. Has done a great job of bottling him up somewhat, and you know, bottle's the right terminology, because look at the queue of cars that are now formed in behind James Wharton. Hugo Gachukwu part of it, Ruiki Liu, Ivan Dominguez. Would be surprised if Valerio Rinicella joins them very soon as well, even though he's 1.6 off the tail of Ivan Dominguez right now. But as far as Enzo Peugeot is concerned, he's looking at the points factor, and should he stay here, it's 4 points going to his name. There'll be the Second time in succession that he has scored 4 points in a Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine race. He did the same back at Zandvoort in race 2. So consistency on offer here for Enzo Peugeot as Tucker Tappinen sends it down through towards turn 1. There is Brando Bador in behind Zachary David. Quite the gap then in between several cars further back. We see a Sansalot car just drifting out wide as they rush down through towards turn 1. That is the 22 of Pedro Clero on Matteo De Parlo. He's going to try and hang it around the outside coming through turn 1, but drifts out wide. Just not enough room to make that move happen, but might get a decent run. Again, Enzo Peugeot defending again, but just look at Pedro Clero aggressively haunting on the back of Matteo De Parlo. Santalok have got all their defensive shields up at this point. It's not just Enzo Peugeot anymore, it's Matteo De Parlo alike. He's got to do exactly the same. Keep the marauding cars up in behind and stop them from breaking past. There's points on offer here for Peugeot. Well, in terms of points, every point matters. We mentioned that here at Hungary. As now Peugeot clatters through the curves of turn 6 and 7 in a bit of keeping James Wharton at bay. Ugo Ugochukwu, surely, is he going to get impatient in his own right, the McLaren Junior? He's got a queue of cars in behind him that include Ruiki Liu and Ivan Dominguez. Another car going off wide as well, coming through turn 11 in the distance. Next to trip around turn 13 to tee up a run down the home straight. I tell you what, it only takes one driver to get it wrong for the dominoes to then fall. And James Wharton will know that better than anybody. You'll be hoping that Enzo Peugeot slips up at some point. And he knows that if he keeps knocking at that wood, if he keeps chipping away, eventually a door will likely open. And the one benefit, of course, that James Wharton has is that he does have slipstream on the back of Enzo Peugeot. And with Peugeot being quite a ways back from Evan Chiltert, it does place him in a bit of a situation he doesn't necessarily want to be in. 4 points maybe at stake, but they could be crucial 4 points. I will say this, Peugeot were very wide coming out of turn 2 through towards turn 3, though has managed to carry the speed relatively well. Up the hill they now run up through towards turn 4. Peugeot still retaining that 8th spot, with Wharton waiting in the wings in behind, coming through towards the next right out of turn 5, and now swinging through the chicane at turn 6 and 7. Tucker Tappinen launching his charge up at the front. Brando Bador, though, has still managed to get closer to that second place. He's 2 tenths away in touching distance of a podium here, but could yet promote himself from P3 to P2 on that same podium, which I'm sure he'd prefer. 3 additional points should he finish in second. That's 18 to his name. Of course, for third, 15. As they now break through turn 13 once again. Tappinen still in control. There is Brando Bador right now. Looking to get a nice, decent run, heading down the long straight through towards turn 1. Competed in the Formula Regional Middle Eastern Championship earlier on this year. And going to try and use all his expertise that he has garnered from driving this very chassis. Put it to good use in a potential advanced championship charge here in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine this time. Tappinen, though, starting to clock out here. He knows that, well, Zachary David is under pressure with cars behind. He's got to be mindful that he could yet be pounced upon. David's mind can't be held preoccupied right now because there's too much going on further back, and for the sake of RSGP, they won't want to forfeit a stunning result like this, seeing both their cars in first and second, because most of the stories this season have been centered around Prema, given that Rafael Camara has won 4 out of the 6 races so far. As they now curtsy their way through this next left-hander. Out of sector 2, they'll run in towards sector 3. The escape out of turn 11, then in towards turn 12. Enzo Dellini getting closer to Brando Bador now too, so get the feeling that perhaps Zachary David is bottling up the group here. And once again, the train reforms, which is good news for Rafael Camara, who's been hunting down Alessandro Giusti for quite some time. Obviously, after dispatching Evan Gilter earlier on in calm, cool fashion, heading in towards turn one. 1 ART overtake, could become 2, should he get the timing just right. But we've only got 2 minutes and 30 to go, plus, of course, the extra lap. It's still Tapperton, who's in charge, in control. I'm sure this is the confidence booster that he just so rightly needs. He needed it back at Zandvoort. He didn't score points in race 1 at Spa, as we alluded to, but has been on the podium. Had been on the podium back at Hungaroring in the opening race, finishing 2nd, just in behind Rafael Camara. Then in race 2, he went on to finish 9th, before then coming back at Spa and not scoring, but then would take 10 points after finishing 5th in race 2 at Spa-Francorchamps. And then it would lead to a victory, his first win of the season, his first win in Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine, as once again Pedro Clero goes on at the attack. Wheel to wheel, they're going to go. Goodness me. Zachary David, I should say, is Brando Bador, not Pedro Clero. Opening up now for Enzo Tellini. Things are kicking off now in the final minutes of this race, and now running out wide is Brando Bador. They came together coming out of the middle sector. Zachary David, I tell you what, there was every possibility that he was going to lose out. Brando Bador once again extending off track. Very conscious now, as now on the attack comes Alessandro Giusti. Goodness me, at the inside at turn 13. They got the run up through towards turn 12. Still Zachary David somehow, some way, holding on to 2nd place, keeping what looks to be Brando Bador in behind. There is Giusti as well, running wheel to wheel with Enzo Tellini. Welcome in as well, Rafael Camara. The man who has taken 4 wins in the last 6 races is now on the attack. Cutting him off is Tellini as well, as Camara gets a great run, heading in towards turn 1. Runs wheel to wheel. Ferrari Junior versus Red Bull Junior on the escape now through towards turn 2. Still at this stage, it's going to be Camara who has the inside line coming through this time. But now Tellini with a lockup of the rear wheels. Surely he's going to lose out. He has lost out. Camara, the brilliance of this young Brazilian, extends once more in the closing stages here at Hungary. Didn't have the ideal qualifying session, his worst of the season, but he has managed to claw his way further up this field, and is now in hot pursuit of Brando Bador, and he's on the cusp of yet another podium. Goodness me, and we've still got 1 more lap to go. Anything can happen in racing, and we have just seen it. What a phenomenal string of events that led to that. Incredible moment, just getting onto the curb. Oh, wow, okay. Well, that is the number 2 belonging to Matteo Topalo, who was spun off at the side of turn 2. There was the car that just got on the curb just behind it, and unfortunately, they were collected heading through towards turn 2. Luckily, though, not too much damage applied to any of the cars, as now they head through the final corner once again to bring an end to that penultimate lap. And Tucker Tapperton in charge right now. Zachary David must be wondering how he has held on to 2nd place. He was under threat, he was challenged, that's for sure. Brando Bador thought he had his chance. I must say, it looked like on paper it was Brando Bador's best chance, but he locks up heading through turn 1, which could yet... Is that a chink in the armour as far as Rafael Camara is concerned? It could well be. I mean, a podium finish for Camara here right now would be absolutely sensational, given the fact that he started quite a ways down. I mean, looking back, starting where he did on the 4th row of the grid, 8th on the grid, to be precise, and has now managed to find 4 places in the space of this race. But I don't think he's going to quite have enough time to find that podium step just yet. And I'm sure he'll rest assured knowing that it was a hard-fought result. And even so, 12 points will go towards him. at the end of this race, should it stay like this. Zachary David just losing the car slightly, coming out of turn 11. Just getting onto the curbs, and the rear just stepped out just a little bit, but Tucker Tappinen, a cool, calm, collected drive. His teammate Zachary David had to do all the work. Kamara, though, has found an opportunity on Brando Bador coming through towards turn 13. I don't think he's quite got enough, though, to unlock it. But Tucker Tappinen has tapped back yet again, this time at Hungaroring. It's his second win of the season. Zachary David makes it an RSGP 1-2 on the podium, with Brando Bador in third place. Rafael Kamara across the line in a stellar drive to finish in fourth. Alessandro Giusti in fifth. Enzo Dellini in sixth. So it's 3 RSGPs in the top 6 of this race. Evan Gilter coming home in 7th, with Enzo Peugeot in 8th. James Wharton further back. Now, this was the catalyst where they came wheel to wheel. Wow, Brando Bador, they went out wide together, and they were wheel to wheel pretty much through the entire sector. And then, of course, Enzo Dellini came into the fight. He had his chance to also brush clear. And you can just see there, getting onto the grass. I do wonder whether the stewards might have an opinion on a few of those moments, but we'll leave that to them. But on track, just goes to show the sheer desire. And Alessandro Giusti had a chance to break into that fight. But the cars, they're making their way back into the paddock and into Parc Fermé. And if one thing's for sure, it's a stellar result from Tucker Tappinen. Just look at the car park that they were erupted. Car park there, son, as they say. But let's take you through the provisional results. Tucker Tappinen, if you want to win, hire a fin. He wins for RSGP. Zachary David in second, makes it RSGP 1-2. Brando Bador in third for Van Amersfoort. Still, they certainly drive to success once again. Rafael Kamara in fourth. Alessandro Giusti in fifth. Enzo Dellini sixth. Evan Gilter seventh. Enzo Peugeot in eighth. James Wharton in ninth. Ugo Gachuku in 10th. Ruiki Liu in 11th. Ivan Dominguez in 12th. Valerio Rinicella in 13th. Further down then, we saw Michael Belov 14th. Nico Lacorte in 15th. Pedro Clero in 16th. Kanato Lay in 17th. Teofil Nile in 18th. Nikhil Bora 19th. Then further down, 20th for Giovanni Maschio. Roman Andriolo in 21st. Marta Garcia in 22nd. Edgar Pierre in 23rd. 24th for Alex Sauer. Yaroslav Vasalaho in 25th. Jesse Carrasquedo Jr. in 26th place. Further down then, in 27th, Nandavid Biran Bhakti. Isaac Barashi in 28th. Matteo De Parlo, last of the runners, in 29th. So, an incredible result for young Tucker Tappinen. Second win of the campaign. It took a little bit of time to come, but the second one will taste nice. And the Finn succeeds here at Budapest in great style. Was in control from start to finish. He mentioned how important qualifying was, track position. Half the job was done after this morning, but still, nonetheless, you've got to get it home. That's exactly what he did. And Zachary David, too. I mean, he was involved in one of the most intense dogfights ever, I think, coming through the final stages of that race. He's conversing with Enzo Dellini right now, too, his RSGP teammate. But a huge battle throughout the entirety of the order. Helmets off now. But a well-measured, high level of brilliance for the young Ferrari Academy driver. Brando Bador, I think he can be pleased with his performance too. The pace is definitely there this weekend, as it always has been, really, for Van Amersfoort here at Hungaroring. Harking back, as I said, to Kaz Haverkort's victory in 2022 in race 1, after he took pole in that very same weekend. Also taking the fastest lap as well through that weekend too, but an amazing effort, amazing drive. Incidentally, Tucker Tappinen also took the fastest lap. Let's take you through the highlights of the race, though. However, it was a great start for Tucker Tappinen, also getting away well with Zachary David. Brando Bador, though, got an electrifying start. Also, all eyes further back on Brando Bador, just getting himself right up into the fight. Evan Gilter also starting well. Enzo Dellini probably had the best start of anybody. Flew through in towards turn 1, very nearly making contact with the Santa Lock further down. I think that was Enzo Peugeot who was in the midst of that scrap. Heading out of turn 1, heading down in towards turn 2 they went. Tapperton held control, he was clear. It was all happening further back. Delaney going wheel to wheel on the escape out of turn 1 as they head through turn 2 and turn 3. But it was a fantastic fight, fantastic battle. James Wharton providing a lot of the action in his battle with Enzo Peugeot, who was dodging and weaving at every turn, trying to keep the Prema driver at bay. Did so emphatically. And that was the same for nearly the entirety of the race. The RPM cars just getting a little bit wrong heading through turn 11. A few drivers did. Also, a big mistake there for Zachary David, which was the catalyst for the major moment towards the very end of the race, where Badur would go wheel to wheel, very nearly through an entire sector, eventually running out wide, coming in towards the latter few corners of sector 2. Enzo Delaney would also join the scrap. We would also see wheel to wheel banging and a bit of a collision heading through turn 2. Pedro Clero collecting Matteo De Palo, but across the line for the second win this season, Tucker Tapperton would take victory.
Good job.
So a brilliant drive from Tucker Tapperton. The podium awaits him, as it will await Zachary David and Brando Badur alike. It was a fantastic end to the race. Always nice when you have I suppose, one of those closing out moments of a race like that, where you get all the action happening at the very end, a crescendo of sorts. There's RHGP's team boss, Thibaut, who we interviewed earlier on this afternoon. Very focused on the results this weekend. And I'm sure he'll be absolutely thrilled to see Tucker Tapperton and Zachary David on this podium. Would love to have seen Enzo Delaney make it a 1-2-3. And it looked at one stage that would happen, but not to be. But Van Amersfoort, once again, it's the two teams that have dominated Hungaroring in this championship over the last 2 years. Enzo Delaney on the rookie podium as leading rookie in this race. Massive performance all round. Emanuele Fasano presenting the trophies to the winning drivers. And the representative from Pirelli also presenting to second place driver Zachary David. Emanuele then presents the winning trophy to Tucker Tapperton. For the second time he takes victory this season. And to the winning team, RHGP, who once again celebrates success here in this series. That's a fourth Hungarian win here in Freca. But now for the national anthem.
Congratulations, guys.
Something tells me it won't be the last time we hear that national anthem on part of young Tucker Tapperton. But looking ahead, we've got more action to bring you tomorrow. Of course, we've got qualifying tomorrow morning for race 2 in the afternoon, so be sure to tune in for that. Plenty more to come. Can Tucker Tapperton go again and win? We'll have to wait and see. Or will it be somebody else? Be sure to tune in tomorrow morning, folks, for qualifying 2. We'll see you then. Goodbye.